Hey guys, Sally checking in with you here. Today I'm going to talk to you a little bit about what I learned from the turtle and what he taught me about dealing with family members who may be struggling with addiction or alcoholism. This happened several years ago in the 80s. I was working at a broodmare farm in South Louisiana and was on my way to work early one morning. It was in the springtime. It was very foggy outside. And I noticed that there was this turtle in the middle of the road. Pretty good sized turtle. And I'm thinking, this guy is going to get smashed by a car. So I pulled over to the side of the road and I proceeded to try to push him off to the side of the road back into the ditch where he was safe. And I had on my heavy duty, buttest, ugliest work boots that you could ever imagine. Not the boots you wear to the show pen, but the boots you wear to work. And it was a good thing because this guy was not pleased with my efforts at all. He was striking at me, he was snapping at me, which gives you a little clue. And I did not know what was going on. And I'm thinking, this turtle is just not a happy camper at all. And I'm trying to save his life. So just then, this guy pulls up in the rustiest old hatchback I've ever seen. It was the mid 80s after all. And he gets out and he goes, is that your turtle? And I'm like, well, not really. I'm just trying to get him off to the side of the road so he doesn't get run over. He said, can I have him? I'm like, I guess so. And that guy reached down and picked up that turtle so fast by the tail. I'd never seen anybody pick up a turtle before, but never that fast. That was not the first turtle he ever picked up, I promise. And he gets into his car. He had the turtle in the right hand, sticks his left hand through the window, puts the turtle, lifts it up over the car door, puts it in his left hand, slams the door, and drives off into the fog with this turtle hanging out the window. And I'm thinking, like, what just happened, you know? That was kind of weird. So that night when I got home, that was before the days of cell phones and, you know, there was no way I could call my husband. We didn't have a phone at the barn. We were primitive. So I couldn't call Joel and tell him what happened. So when I get home, I'm like, gosh, you're not going to believe what happened today. I found this turtle on the side of the road and I was trying to get him off the road so that I could get him back into the ditch. But he was just like not happy. You know, he's like biting at my boots and he's striking or he's hissing at me and, you know, swatting at me. And Joel's like, Sally, that is a snapping turtle. What are you doing messing with the snapping turtle? You can't do that. I'm like, well, I didn't know it was a snapping turtle. I was just trying to save his life. And he's like, don't do that again. How big was it? And I said, it was about this. His shell was about this big. It was a pretty good sized turtle. He goes, you can't do that. And I said, well, it didn't matter anyway because this guy picked him up by the tail and drove off with him. And my husband's like, yep. That guy ended up in a pot of turtle soup by the end of the day. And I'm thinking, oh, well, you know, so much for trying to save that turtle's life. But you know, there's something about that. Have you ever felt like when you were trying to help a family member that was struggling, they might have had the same reaction as that snapping turtle? Because that snapping turtle reminds me a lot of my mom when I would try to say very gently, Mom, Dave and I are worried about the fact that you seem to be drinking pretty consistently and we think it might be affecting your health. Whew. She never took it well. Never. And you know, I learned to let it go. I learned to leave it with the Lord. I gave my best effort to help her, to talk to her, to try to reason with her. She wasn't open. And her story didn't end well in that respect, that alcoholism took a tremendous toll on her health and probably eventually took her life. But I know that God won in the end because I prayed for her for so long. And I know that she went home into the arms of Jesus where she didn't have to struggle with her demons anymore. And I'm just so grateful for that. And the other good news to the story is that I went on for several years to save many more turtles' lives that were not snapping turtles. Because those little suckers in the spring, they like to climb out of the ditch onto the pavement, mostly on the country roads. So it didn't matter what kind of shoes I had on, even when I was in Mary Kay and I had on my heels and my stockings and my director's suit and my jewelry and blah, 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 blah. I would get out of the car and my husband would just be like, oh, please, please don't tell me. Sally, please. I'm like, stop the car, stop the car. You've got to get these turtles off the road. And I would gently push them, gently, because you can tip them over pretty fast, off to the side of the road, into the ditch where they would be safe until the next time that they got the idea to crawl back on the road. But by that time, it was someone else's problem and not mine. So that's the good news to the story. So if you're trying to help somebody that's not really open to be helped, do your best. Try to follow the Lord's lead and leave the rest to Him, because He always wins in the end. Thanks for listening, guys. See you soon.